All right. What's going on, everybody? New episode of Tello Talk podcast back out today. Today I'm uh, here with Cameron once again. Uh,
Yep.
we're doing an NFL podcast this week, just like we did last week. We thought we kind of just conversed between each other and thought maybe it'd be a good idea to go ahead and do one. So we're here. We are going today. We are going to be talking about the week 4 recap. And basically give you a rundown of what we think for next week. So start it off. Obviously, we're going to start with the recap. Cam, you can set us off with the Dolphins Bengals game.
Yeah, Dolphins Bengals. Before I say anything, Tua, just got an update. He's doing really well. There's no timetable yet on his return. Obviously, the concussion injury 4 days after passing what was a little bit of a sketchy concussion protocol against the Bills. He
Yeah.
goes down again. And I very, very scary scene. And in Cincy on Thursday night, I think that's kind of all the talk was about after this game concluded. Nobody really cared about the score. It was all about prayers up for Tua, because injuries like that and whatnot, they're those are career-ending injuries, and or worse, like some guys, get hit so hard that ends their career, they can't ever walk again, and so it's good to see that Tua's, he's healthy, he's getting to that point, he'll come back and play soon. As far as the game goes, Joe Mixon had a really good game. Um, I mean, he kind of got back on track. He only averaged 2.5, but it was good to see him get on back on track. Tyreek Hill, 10 for 160, and he had a rush for -1. Teddy Bridgewater looked really good in this one, and I think that it's a
Yeah.
good sign for Miami moving forward without Tua because obviously, since he makes the last little push there in the fourth quarter, end up winning this game by 12. But the big takeaway for me from this one is that Teddy Bridgewater looked good. Jalen Waddle did not.
Okay. Yeah, I like what you said there. Teddy Bridgewater. I mean, obviously, I'm a little bit biased because he was the Saints backup for a while, and he got us a 4-0 when Drew Brees broke his thumb. I think it was either 4 or 6 games, and he won every single game. Um,
Mhm.
Yeah, so I love Teddy Bridgewater. I've always been a big fan of him. Always rooted for him because of his injuries as well. Um, but I'd say the big thing in this game was that Cincinnati was always in control of the game. I don't think there was a single point in the game where they were down. Um,
No, was it?
there was not a single point in the game when they were down. It was
That's right.
going into halftime, they were up by 2, and then they just did not Miami. Oh, sorry. At the beginning of the fourth quarter, Miami kicked the field goal and
Yeah,
took it.
yeah. That's what I was
But
thinking of.
I just felt like Cincinnati was always in control of this game. Their offensive line looked a lot better this game, especially against the Miami Dolphins pass rush, who has been giving other teams problems, like the Buffalo Bills, like we saw in Week 3. Um,
Yeah.
but it's just good to see Joe Burrow actually get protection in the backfield. I mean, 287 and 2 touchdowns isn't like superstar Joe Burrow like he was when he threw for like 400 yards or something, but it's still really good Joe Burrow.
Mhm.
Um, and it's just something you like to see if you're a Bengals fan, obviously. But it's just kind of good to see the Bengals back on track because it's going to go and we're going to end up having a competitive AFC North this year, in my opinion, with the Ravens and the Bengals because the Ravens are fully healthy this season.
Yep.
We will talk about the Ravens later. They do need to get their shit together. But
Two
I
straight
just thought,
17 plus point losses
yeah,
for the Ravens. Or no, they beat the Patriots, but other than that, go ahead.
yeah. But I just think, I mean, T. Higgins had a monster game, 124 yards on 7 catches and a touchdown. Um, it's just this team. It, when at the beginning of the season, they didn't look like their Super Bowl team. They looked like they were having a super. They were having the Super
Super
Bowl
Bowl
losing
hangover.
Super Bowl hangover. Uh, that's something we'll talk about the Rams later.
Yep.
It's just good to see the Bengals back, showing kind of their normal selves again.
Hmm.
That's really all I got to say about that game. I'll move on to the London game. Oh my gosh, I don't like
Ooh.
talking at all. My New Orleans Saints versus the Minnesota Vikings. Minnesota Vikings won the game 25-22. Um, Will Lutz, I think it was actually 28-25. Sorry.
Yep, 28-25.
But Will Lutz, uh, not his fault for the loss. Um, I would say that the main thing I get out of this game is the Saints season is being cost by penalties, turnovers, and some penalties are a little BS. I will say that. Um, they lead the league in turnovers and penalties, which is not something that you want to as a successful team. And this is kind of a big reason why they're 1-3 is they just don't know how to keep the ball in their hands and don't know how to keep drives going because they're too busy giving the ball away or setting themselves back. Um, Justin Jefferson for the Vikings looked great. Hate to say it, but he kind of bullied Marshawn Lattimore. And I'm a big Marshawn Lattimore guy, so I hate saying that. But I just think this game was a very winnable game for New Orleans. It was a heartbreak. Um, Will Lutz, I mean, he had the leg on it. He just didn't have the aim.
Hmm.
Yeah,
No, this game was it looked like Minnesota was gonna run away with it from the very beginning. New Orleans was out Jameis, Alvin Kamara, and Michael Thomas. You look at, your potential wide receiver one and running back one and QB one. Kind of the same problem the Saints ran into last year that lost them a lot of crucial games that ended up um unfortunately forcing them to miss the playoffs. And you kind of begin to wonder, is that the same, case with this year's Saints team? And it's a little too early to tell. I think that Jameis should be back next week. MT will be back next week, and I think they'll have all three of those guys back
they,
next week.
they might.
Not sure on that though. And then Will Lutz, how old is he? Isn't he
I
like
don't know.
isn't he like in his mid 30s?
Probably a little younger. But I mean,
Something
another
like
thing you got to is he just broke his career long because he kicked a 60-yarder earlier in the game.
yeah, he kicked a 60-yarder to tie it, and then barely missed. I mean, the double doink, unfortunate. I thought that I had the distance, like you said, um, but unfortunately, just pulled a little bit to the left, and yeah. But no really big takeaways. Justin Jefferson is back. Fantasy managers are pretty happy about that. Um, I feel bad for the London fans though because I mean mm, they had to go watch a game and go watch Kirk Cousins and Andy Dalton duke it out. Andy Dalton was very good in this one, though. I
I
will.
I,
I
I
won't lie.
actually they looked somewhat better with Dalton at quarterback.
Yeah.
And I'm not trying to diss Jameis because I love Jameis Winston. He's my favorite, one of my favorite guys on the Saints. Um, but Jameis better keep his eye open because he Dalton looked better than him, in my
Hmm.
opinion.
Yeah. No, 100%. Dalton looked better than him.
Right. So
Um,
move on.
moving on to the next one. The first game that actually started at 11 today, or sorry, not today, on Sunday, was the Browns versus the Falcons. The Falcons ended up winning 23-20 over the Browns after 13 in the fourth quarter.
Yeah.
Bryce, I'll let you. What are your thoughts on that one?
I think, in my opinion, although I don't think he had the greatest game, Mariota still should be the starter. I've heard some things saying Desmond Ritter should start. Although Desmond Ritter likes to fumble a lot, um, just like he did. He had about almost, I think, he had a lot of fumbles back at Cincinnati. People were complaining
Hmm.
about Mariota fumbling a lot. Um, but as you're saying, yeah, the Falcons, they kind of had their little comeback there, which is kind of weird. You don't really see that often from Atlanta. Um, you see them usually choking. Uh, However, you look at their stat lines for rushing. something that really points out for me is Atlanta had uh, 202 rushing yards in that game.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, they went against a team with 177, which is, I mean, a pretty good rushing game for both teams overall. I mean, obviously, Cleveland has guys like Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt, whereas the Falcons have Mariota, obviously, Cordell Patterson. I don't even know their backup running back. Um,
Huntley?
uh,
Did you mention Huntley?
your
Caleb
guess is
Huntley?
your guess is as good as mine, dude.
No, no, Caleb Huntley. He he had a good game. He was 10 runs for 56 yards.
Okay.
Same with Tyler Algier. 10 runs for 84 for him. But I mean that was kind of the story about this game. A lot of running. Passing wise, both quarterbacks were very lackluster today. Jacoby Brissett did have 200 and like 230 yards. However, both quarterbacks combined threw no touchdowns and two interceptions. Nick
With the
Chubb's Chubbs. Nick Chubb had about 120 on the ground today or on Sunday. God, and the Falcons also run the ball really well. That was kind of the deciding factor in this one was who ran the ball better
yeah,
and who ran the ball more.
yeah.
And that team was the Falcons, and the Falcons wound up winning this one. It was kind of like the Falcons were like kind of rolling away with it. In the fourth quarter, as soon as that fourth quarter kind of neared the end, it got a um, little close late, and then the Falcons converted on their first down, and then ended up kicking the game-winning field goal. Um, Big takeaways. Browns fans really miss Deshaun Watson. The Browns in general really miss Deshaun Watson. They moved to 2-2. They're still the number one team in the North.
They are tied a three-way tie for the North.
Yeah. So three-way tie, you know, and if you're Cleveland, that's exactly where you want to be. Um, Jacoby Brissett obviously is not gonna lead you to a playoff berth. So sitting around middle of the pack is perfect for Cleveland, at least until week 11.
Yes.
And then as far as the Falcons go, the Falcons surprisingly 2-2. You'd think they'd be in tank mode, which I'm pretty sure they are. But no, they're second. They're second in their respective
They're
division
tied for
too, the
first.
NFC South. Hmm.
But yeah,
Um,
we're gonna move
moving on
on.
to moving on to the next one. I'll let you take this one.
Next game, we'll probably just talk about a little bit, just because I think everybody watching this game kind of knew what was going to happen. It's the Washington Commanders traveled to Dallas, played the Dallas Cowboys. And it was just kind of the same story when Dallas plays Washington.
Yep.
Dallas kicks Washington to the ground. Cooper Rush looked very impressive once again. 4-0 as a starter. Do you see any quarterback competition going on, Cam, with Dallas?
Cooper Rush has looked really good, and so it's really hard to tell. I think that as far as a quarterback competition, not really. You know, Richard Sherman said it best. They paid Dak Prescott way too much money to bench him.
Very
Um,
cool.
but I don't think that they're gonna rush Dak back. If that makes sense. So I
Yeah,
think that, you know, because they do have Cooper Rush, who is trusted at the QB position, that you know, there's no reason to rush Dak back because their schedule's one of the easiest in the league. They play in the NFC East. It's just, you know, it was just your typical Dallas versus Washington game.
yeah,
You know,
yeah,
dumb dumb boys get one win this week, unfortunately, but it comes against the Commanders.
yeah. And I will say, there's one thing I will point out is Ezekiel Elliott did not look very impressive with 19 carries and only 49 yards.
Yeah.
But we'll move on to the next game. I'll take this one. It's going to be Seattle played against Detroit. And this game was just an offensive shootout. I mean, Seattle didn't have a single quarter where they did not score 10 or more points. Detroit had 22 fourth quarter points. It seems like this is kind of thing for Detroit to do is to score just a ton in the second half. Um, the defenses in this game just awful. I mean, Geno Smith had 320 yards. Jared Goff had 378. We had two. Rashad Penny 151 yards and two touchdowns. Jamal Williams 108 yards, two touchdowns. Just absolute offensive beatdowns on both defenses. Um, which is something funny that, and to me, honestly, is the Lions have the highest scoring offense in the league, yet they're 1-3 because they got the worst defense in the league. And now, I mean, Seattle's 2-2 with every other team in the NFC West, heading over to New Orleans next week to try and stop New Orleans from trying to get the Bird Gauntlet, and obviously trying to advance to 3-2. What do you got? What do you got to say about this game?
This one was, in my opinion, was one of the best games of the season up to date. Um, Geno Smith looks like an MVP caliber player right now. I can't explain that. He just set the record for the highest completion percentage through any 4 game stretch in NFL history.
Wow.
Um,
Yes. Ooh,
which is
he's
just
got
an
77.3%.
absolutely absurd stat. Granted, doesn't matter what. That's an absolutely crazy stat. And for a guy like Geno Smith to be getting it, it kind of makes you wonder, like, are the Seahawks legit? Because the Seahawks now 2-2, tied. There's a 4-way tie in the West. Oh, hold on here, my computer's bugging out. Um, Rashad Penny. Wow, Rashad Penny up to this game had done nothing.
He had 104. Yeah, he had 141 yards going into that game. In the season, he had 151.
Rashad Penny was averaging about 10 yards a run. He broke out those 2 long touchdown runs.
Yep.
End of the day, with 151, or sorry, 157 all-purpose yards. Geno Smith at 320, like you said. Geno Smith had a 132 quarterback rating in this one too. Jared Goff had 121 quarterback rating as well. Why are these, these quarterbacks that everyone just expects to be so bad, and, placeholders for,
Yeah.
the future for upcoming drafting quarterbacks, and they're showing out. They're showing that they've still got gas in them. So the big takeaway, the Lions. I mean, the Lions are gonna lion. Seahawks are. I mean, it just raises all the question marks. You know, who
You,
who who are the Lions and who are the Seahawks so far this season? Because the Seahawks against the Niners looked like trash, and the Lions have just looked good all year so far. Their
their
defense has
defense is
not,
awful. Yeah.
but I mean, it's kind of interesting moving forward. And the Seahawks and the Lions, in my opinion, are 2 teams that everybody should be keeping a close eye on.
Okay. Yeah.
Moving on to our next one, though, we had an AFC South divisional matchup between the Colts and the Titans. Um,
Colts.
Jonathan Taylor gets hurt in this one. Not sure what's happening to him.
Is that concerning if you're a Colts fan?
Um, I think if you're a Colts fan, you were already hitting the panic button regardless of his injury. Um, I think that, putting up 17 points against a division rival, not good. You lose to a division rival, also not good. Lose your best player. Like Colts fan and the organization are, they're smashing that panic button.
Yeah.
Now 1-2 on the season. I mean,
Once
all
on.
four, not all four. They're 0-3 or sorry, they're 0-2-1
Mhm.
in divisional play so far.
Yeah.
So pretty much, I mean, if you're a Colts fan, all hope of making the playoffs have kind of whittled down to nothing now, and that's kind of the big takeaway for this one is Colts fans. I mean, you Colts have played half of their divisional games so far, and they have not won a single one,
And that's alarming.
and that is very alarming.
Yeah. Um, a big thing I see is Tennessee didn't even score in the second half, and they still won the game. They didn't even have to score in the second half.
Yeah.
Indianapolis just doesn't. look like the team that people thought they were going to be. A lot of people thought Indianapolis was going to win this division, uh,
Mm-hmm.
as it was a kind of a weak division.
To
I
start with.
mean, when Tannehill only scores 2 touchdowns on 137 yards, you're not expecting this team to win a game. But I mean, Derrick Henry's starting to look like Derrick Henry again. Had 114 yards with an average of 5.2 carry and a touchdown.
Yep.
So, as a Titans fan, I think you're kind of relieved that Derrick Henry's back after those last 2 games. One big name that I kind of noticed was Mo Alley Cox, 85 receiving yards, 2 touchdowns on 6 catches uh, for the Colts. Nobody really knows about that guy, and he had that big of a game, and just kind of shows that anybody can step up.
Yeah. I mean, the Titans were shadowing Pittman all game. Pittman's been a stud so far this year, and it left room for Mo Alley Cox to kind of shine, and he showed that he
Yeah.
can shine. He had 2 touchdowns too.
Yeah.
So any Mo Alley Cox owners in fantasy, in the off chance that you started that guy, they're thriving.
Yeah.
What's your big takeaway for this one though?
The Derrick Henry being back. Derrick Henry's performance.
All right.
Moving on,
On to the next one.
we're gonna be the Chicago Bears and New York Giants. Look at the Giants, 3-1. Wow, it's actually crazy to look at. Despite their 3 wins being the Titans, Bears, and can't recall their other win. Um, I believe it was Carolina. Yeah, Carolina. They're first in the league for rushing yards. They average almost 200 rushing yards a game right now, and that's absolutely insane for New York. Like, when have we ever seen the New York Giants do that? Saquon Barkley, in my opinion, is the best running back in the league this season so far. Had 146 rushing yards, and then on top of that, only 16 on the receiving game. But excuse me, Saquon just looking like himself.
Mm-hmm.
Daniel Jones and Tyrod Taylor. Daniel Jones went down with an ankle injury. Tyrod Taylor came in. He kind of got a little shooken up, I think, as well. Um,
Yep.
for the Bears, something that I would point out, though, is Darnell Mooney had 4 catches for 94 yards. Justin Fields and Darnell Mooney are trying to kind of getting that connection back. But as a Bears fan, scoring 12 points is a little alarming, especially when it's 4 field goals. Um, just not being able to convert inside the red zone, as they had a 22-yard field goal, a 29-yard field goal, and a 35-yard field goal. All of those, and then one right outside the red zone. So all of their field goals were in the red zone or right outside the red zone. That's a
Yep.
little alarming for Chicago.
Yeah. Chicago. Um, I think Chicago will end the year as the worst team in the NFL.
Wow.
You said it. Daniel Jones went out with an ankle injury. Tyrod Taylor got shaken up. The Giants, for the majority of the fourth quarter, were running Saquon in the backfield out of Wildcat
Yeah.
for the majority of the fourth quarter. And you're telling me that the Bears, who are down by one possession at this point,
But
aren't
not
able to stop that and even like make a change, like make any sort of run to winning this game. It's just the Bears have not looked good. Finally, Darnell Mooney and Justin Fields kind of mending that connection a little bit better. The Bears, Cole Herbert does look good. Not as good as Saquon, who averaged 5 in this game. Saquon ran for 31 times for about 150. Um, and the big takeaway for me for this one is I've been noticing some correlation with the Giants' success. Whenever Daniel Jones rushes the ball really well, the Giants have been winning. Daniel Jones, 6 rushes for 68 yards and 2 touchdowns in this one. His
yeah.
longest being 21 yards, and those were the only 2 scores that the Giants had in this one. And sure enough, it was all they needed to beat the to beat the Bears. Which, I mean, you really you don't need that many points to beat the Bears any given week. The Bears are a very run heavy team, and um, I mean, what's your big takeaway from this one?
My big takeaway is just kind of the whole thing, the whole rushing attack for the Giants. Whenever their rushing attack works, they win games.
Hmm.
Uh, and then the Bears, they just got to step it up. I mean, Justin Fields only had 11 completions.
Yeah, I'm
Really.
sitting in that boat with you too. I think that the rushing game that the Giants have is it's re- it's proven to be dominant, and going forward, I'm curious to see if teams will pick up on it.
Yeah.
Moving on to the next one. Uh, what was supposed to be more of a blowout, um, or what people didn't expect to be as close of a game, but ended up being so, was the Jaguars and Eagles. Eagles came into today as the only undefeated team, um, barring the Dolphins loss on Thursday Night Football, and they come out of the week remaining the only undefeated team at 4-0, first in the NFC West. The
Yeah.
Jags lost, still tied for first in the AFC South. What are your thoughts on this game, Bryce?
My thoughts is I would say this was honestly an impressive loss for Jacksonville. Um, and more of a win's a win for Philly. I mean, they did kind of win this game with authority, so good for Philly. Jalen Hurts, uh, passing wise, didn't look great. I mean, the completion percentage was there, but he had an interception, and obviously Jalen Hurts is a runner too.
Hmm.
My big thing for the Eagles though was Miles Sanders had himself a game, 134 yards, 5 yards per carry, and 2 touchdowns. Just just incredible. And then another thing I'd have to say is the big thing that I look at when I look at this game is it's quite interesting to see that Jacksonville was in a close game when Trevor Lawrence only had 174 yards.
Hmm.
Um, but I just think Jacksonville's kind of turning heads now, obviously, with the fact that they're 2-2. They dominated Los Angeles last week, and then almost lost by one possession to Philly. There's something they're going to be a surprising team. And I like their coach a lot. I like Doug Peterson a lot. So I'm excited to see how Jacksonville plays for the rest of the year. I mean, their defense is looking great too. The first score of the game was a pick six. Um, so I'm ready. I'm ready for more of this season. I could not tell you how much I love to see Jacksonville in the playoffs.
Yeah, to see him back in there. Um, yeah, Eagles. I mean, the Eagles are going to be any team they play on the ground. It's a given at this point. The um the Jags only had about 230 total yards in this one, and I think that that's kind of what cost them this game. The Eagles pounded the ball more offensively. You obviously had the defense for the Jaguars getting the first score of the game. Now, speaking of the Jaguars defense, the thing that I think is holding this team back, and you kind of have to like look back at the draft and think, what if they made some different choices that, whatever. But Trayvon Walker he just hasn't been around.
Other than the
He,
first week, yeah.
yeah, Trayvon Walker, number one pick in the draft. You'd expect a guy coming out of the draft, as athletically skilled and gifted as he is, that, you know, you spent the first overall pick on this guy, right? Like, surely he's gonna do something for you immediately out the gate, But Trayvon Walker just hasn't really been there, and I think, that kind of holds this defense back. You just spent a first overall pick. Aiden Hutchinson's been a stud. Aiden
Oh yeah.
Hutchinson's been really good so far, and moving forward, I want to see Trayvon Walker get more involved, and I want to see Trevor Lawrence throw the ball more. The field conditions in that game were not good.
Yeah.
So I will give that is kind of like,
Got
I'm
them
not
some.
saying I'm not saying that Trevor Lawrence should be throwing the ball 40 times a game when it's literally like pouring, But what I am saying is that I do want to see Trevor Lawrence throw the ball more. I think that he's an amazing quarterback. He was amazing coming out of college. Um, and the Eagles, fly, Eagles fly, I guess. I don't. I mean, there's nothing to really say
Uh,
about the Eagles. Though They
I did
remain the only undefeated team in the NFL.
this podcast. Can you remember?
What's
Fly,
yeah?
Eagles.
Fly Eagles fly. We said it. We predicted it.
We predicted it. We
We
predicted it.
predicted it. Like you give a team that many first round picks,
And they've got two this year too.
like man, dude,
One of them's a
Eagles.
top four.
Yeah, the Eagles are going to be a top. The Eagles are going to be the best team in the NFL here next year. If they aren't at the end of this year, they will be at the end of the next year.
Oh yeah,
Um,
just looking at
moving
it. Yeah.
on to the next game, though, Bryce. I'll let you take this one.
So we're gonna go
Start
over to
us off.
Pittsburgh,
We're going to go over to Pittsburgh.
with a
That's not
Pittsburgh
how they
New York
talk.
Jets game.
I don't think that's how they talk, but
That's not how they talk in
no.
Pittsburgh. But um, the biggest thing for this game for me, I'm already gonna say it right now, is Pittsburgh collapsed. Um, there was 7.5 minutes left to go. They were up by 10, and they ended up losing by 4. Zach Wilson did not look too impressive in the first 3 quarters until the fourth quarter when he finally started shining and rallied the team together. Um, and then Brees Hall finally got the majority of the touches. He had a game. And my biggest thing of the game was the fact that Kenny Pickett replaced Mitch Trubisky. They finally took Mitch Trubisky out. They realized this guy's not good. Pickett may have had 3 interceptions, but I will say this: one of them was his fault. 2 of them weren't.
Yep.
One of them was in a Hail Mary on the last play of the game, and then one of them, Chase Claypool, did not even try to go for the ball. So I will blame Chase Claypool for that. But he did have 2 rushing touchdowns. Kenny Pickett did have 2 rushing touchdowns. And George Pickens had himself a game, 6 catches for 102 yards. Finally unleashed this dude's potential. He is a stud, and I'm glad to see that they're finally letting him break free and play free. It's just the fact that they gave up 2 touchdowns that easy just is alarming as a Pittsburgh fan. They are 0-7 when TJ Watt does not play.
Yeah. Yeah. The Steelers have always kind of, I mean, as of recently, have kind of been a team that's leaned on their defense. Um,
Mm-hmm.
they spent their first round pick on Najee Harris last year. It's it looked like it worked out for them. So far, Najee hasn't really been there this year. He wasn't there yesterday or on Sunday. Sorry, he wasn't there on Sunday. Um, and I mean, Kenny Pickett, it's good to see him kind of get started. Steelers fans were asking for that, for quite a while. And like you said, those 2 interceptions weren't on him. One of them was, but that's besides the point. Zach Wilson was back though. Completed about 50% of his passes, caught a touchdown. Um, yeah, I, I I'm split because I think that Joe Flacco should remain the quarterback of this team. I think that the Jets are better with Flacco. Um, you know, like you said, Zach Wilson through the first 3 quarters of this game was just non-existent.
Yeah.
This game doesn't really like. I'm struggling to find the words to talk about it because this game doesn't really have any major inflictions. The Jets are not going to win the AFC East. The Steelers are not going to win the AFC North. I don't
Mm-hmm.
think that either of those teams will even contend for that spot. And so this is kind of one of those every week's got a couple of games like this, just a little placeholder game, for the fans. But this overall, it was a fun game to watch. Seeing Zach Wilson drive down the field and win the Jets this one.
Yeah.
But moving forward, maybe the Jets have a chance at the East if Brees Hall is who they think he is, and Zach Wilson, you know, yeah, that, that
Yeah. I
that's
like
really
your
all
take
I got.
on the Joe
I
Flacco
thought
thing.
my headset died there. That's my bad. I
The
thought
Joe
I thought
Flacco
my
thing.
headset died.
Joe Flacco thing's kind of big too, because you look at it, he was top 5 in passing yard after week 3.
Yeah.
But yeah, we'll move on to the next game. Cameron, you want to introduce this one?
Yeah, the next one was unfortunately, if you're a Ravens fan, was your second in the last 3 weeks, your second loss of giving up 17 or more points and losing after a 17-point lead. I mean, granted, you lost to the Bills. The Ravens were up 20-3 at one point in this game. Everything looked like, it was like going to be a Ravens, it was going to be a Ravens win. Oh, whatever. Ravens got this one. Bills showed them. Because at the beginning of this game, the Ravens defense was locking up Diggs, was locking up Allen. Allen was constantly pressured in the pocket, trying to move around, get things going. Couldn't. And second half rolls around in the Bills. I don't know what was said in that locker room. I don't know what McDermott said to those guys, but clearly it worked because Bills come roaring back and score 20 unanswered to win this game 23-20.
Mm-hmm.
Big takeaways. Lamar didn't look the best. He ran the ball okay, didn't pass really that well. This is also another game where the field conditions were not that great. Kind of more of a defensive centered game. But big takeaways, Bills get away with a win. And I mean, the Baltimore defense, that's two times now. Their two losses this year should have been wins.
Yeah, you're gonna have to start looking to see what's the problem on the defensive side of the ball.
And you look at it, right, and it's the two teams that they ended up blowing those leads to, the Bills and the
No,
Dolphins
AFC East.
and the AFC East teams. And I'm sure that the Ravens, and of course, barring any sort of Lamar injuries, will see these teams at some point again later in the season, talking about January. And there's gonna be there's just gonna have to be adjustments.
Oh yeah.
That's all there is to it. Bills keep rolling. I'm a huge Bills fan. I think the Bills are really good. I'm not a Bills fan, but I am a Bills believer, and I think that Josh Allen is the best quarterback in the NFL now after this game.
Okay.
I think that Lamar had a very lackluster performance, and it kind of gave the edge to Josh Allen.
Okay. Yeah. I think Lamar rushing wise looked okay. Big thing for Lamar is he kind of looked like young Lamar, where he has not very many passing yards,
Hmm.
uh, where he just hits check downs. I mean, the most he hit a lot of receivers, um, yeah, but just a lot of check downs, a lot of short routes, and then running the ball. Um, but I mean, Josh Allen did the exact same thing, but he did it even better. He had 213 yards passing, 70 yards rushing, touchdown on both sides, both ways. Sorry,
Yeah.
but the biggest thing from this game is Baltimore's defense. They looked dominant in the first half, and then they just fell apart. I don't know what they were doing. Maybe they said, "Oh, let's pretend to be the Falcons for our second time in the season." But this also kind of just proves that Buffalo has discipline, and why they are, in your opinion, the best team in the league. In my opinion, no, they're not the best team in the league, but it just kind of
I
shows.
I don't think the Bills are the best team in the league anymore.
Okay.
I think the Eagles kind of take that
Yeah.
spot now.
So we have the consensus. All right.
Yeah, we're gonna have to do a consensus rankings.
We'll do
Maybe,
that.
maybe, maybe we'll
Maybe
do
half.
another one of those. Maybe we'll do one of those in like next week or 2 weeks from now, once
Mhm.
we get more time under the belt.
Oh yeah. Because you can't just do one every week. I mean,
True.
obviously it's good, but like, what's the fun in that?
Yeah, right. What's your big takeaway from this one though, Bryce?
Baltimore's defense needs to step it up.
Yeah, I think
That's it.
I'm gonna say the same thing.
If they
Baltimore's
want to
defense just
have
has to step it up.
success later in the season and in the postseason, if they make it, they need to step up.
Hmm. Yeah, no, without a doubt.
All right.
Um, Moving on to the next game,
Tis
the Chargers and the Texans.
Chargers and the Texans. Yep. The only
Chargers with a very strong first half, looked like a blowout. Um, Chargers ended up winning this one 34-24. Houston looked to make a late surge in this one, but was there really any hope after Eckler scored his third touchdown of the day.
Yeah, they're that's when the game kind of shut down. I mean, Eckler looked like his elite self again. Um, will point it out though. Damian Pierce haven't had himself a game. Only on 14
Mm-hmm.
rushes, 31 yards for the Texans. But as you were saying, yeah, Eckler 2 on the ground, 1 in the air, or 1 catching. He looked like that Austin Eckler that everybody expects to be a top 5 draft pick in fantasy.
Exactly. No,
I
Eckler
mean,
looked amazing this game. Kind of looked like he was playing a video game out there, which if anybody follows the Chargers remotely closely, you know that Eckler loves his video games. So he probably practiced that a lot in Madden the week prior. Um, it, it the big takeaway for me for this one, I'll keep it short, keep it sweet, because this one, it was just a Chargers win over the Texans, nothing too big about too big
yeah.
going on. Was Damian Pierce, playing really well. Davis Mills also had a pretty good game. Um, I mean, 2 interceptions wasn't good, but he threw for about 250. And for fantasy fans looking at this one, yeah, not Davis Mills. Damian Pierce was the only rusher that the Texans threw out there on Sunday.
I'm a proud Damian Pierce fantasy holder.
Yeah, unfortunately, I'm not. I'm a Rashad Penny fantasy holder,
I
but
am too. He had a good.
yeah. Receiving, Nico Collins. I mean, he's due for like 90 yards on 3 catches like every other game. Doesn't really make sense.
Yeah.
But that's really all that there is from this one. Chargers get a much needed win moving forward. What do you have to say about the Chargers or the Texans, who are now 0-3-1,
Um.
the only no-win team
Yeah.
in the NFL?
For the Chargers, Justin Herbert. I love seeing that he's fully healthy again. Last week he looked kind of off. And Austin Eckler, great to see Austin Eckler playing like himself again. And
Hmm.
then for the Texans, I expected it. I
Yeah,
expected the worst team in the league.
yeah. Texans just have a really tough schedule too. Like, I won't lie, like their schedule's tough. Um, Moving on to the next game though. Kind of an interesting one. You had the Panthers against the Cardinals. Um, Cardinals ended up winning this one 26-16. CMC had a good receiving day. That was about it. Didn't really run the ball that well. Baker Mayfield, I mean, the Panthers are now 1-3 in a, in a kind of even out NFC South, and you think that the Panthers maybe want to, contend for that division. Um, because I'm pretty sure didn't every single NFC South team lose? No, the Falcons won.
Falcons won
But
this week.
yeah, but I mean, Saints and Bucks both lost this week. This is a perfect opportunity for the Panthers to maybe get a jump on, maybe trying to take this division into their own hands, but just could not do it against the freaking Cardinals. Kyler Murray played really well this game. Was 23 for 32 with 207.
One on the ground.
Uh, he ran the ball 12 times for 26 yards. James Conner had an okay game. Benjamin did all right. CMC is my big takeaway from this one. Didn't really do much. Hadn't really done anything leading up to this one. Comes out of this game with his first touchdown of the year. Is that right?
I do not
Am I
know.
wrong on that? Hold on, let me do my research
You
real
are
quick.
correct.
Because I think I'm correct
You
on
are
that,
correct.
right?
That was his first touchdown of the year.
Yeah, CMC gets his
Or
first
first,
touchdown
I
of the
think first
year.
receiving touchdown of the year.
What's up?
First receiving.
Yeah, first receiving touchdown of the year. Um, Moving forward, the Cardinals now are in the Seahawks. I'm just checking my divisions real quick. So the NFC West is in a four-way tie. So that is anyone's division still.
Well,
You
technically, San Francisco's in first because they
San
have two
Francisco is in first because they do have the two
divisional.
division wins. Moving forward though for the Cardinals, uh, I mean it wasn't divisional, so Kyler Murray and James Conner, you hope to see a little bit more out of them moving forward. But other than that, I really don't have anything to say about this one. It was just kind of the Cardinals beating up on a little bit of an inferior opponent in
Yeah,
the Carolina Panthers.
that's kind of what I saw. Carolina did jump out to a 10-3 lead at halftime, but I think we all knew Kyler and the Cardinals were going to come back and win the game anyways.
Yep.
Um, Something that it's kind of eye opening to me, which I think people should look out for, is Benjamin had 7.2 yards per carry, and James Conner had 3.7. If I were
Killed
Cliff
him.
Kingsbury, I would give Benjamin more carries and see what it would be like if he had a workload like James Conner, because that could be that case where you end up going, "Wow, this guy probably needs to start over this other guy," you know. Um,
Mm-hmm.
but Baker just looks awful. Uh, he's looked awful every game, even in the game that they won. He just does not look good. Um, Good to see he's finally getting McCaffrey involved more in the passing game, but Carolina's got a lot of problems they're going to need to solve soon.
Yep.
Yeah. So we'll move on to the next game. For me, this game was a little concerning for the winning team. Um, New England Patriots lost to Green Bay in Green Bay, 27-24, off of a game-winning field goal in overtime as time expired. Um, Mac Jones, not Mac Jones, Brian Hoyer, sorry, came out, started, and then he got hurt. So Bailey Zapp had to come in, and he didn't look too awful. I mean, 10 for 15, 99 yards and a touchdown. He did his job. He did what he had to do. Um, Aaron Rodgers looked okay. He did pretty good. Uh, Aaron Jones and AJ Dillon, that backfield just did incredible. They didn't have any touchdowns, but they combined for 183 rushing yards. Um, and Alan Lazard also had himself a game too.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, my biggest takeaway from this game is Green Bay should not be excited for this win. It should just be oh, we won the game. That's it. Because you should not be beating New England by only 3, especially a 1-2 team that going into the game 1-3 now. New England's not the same New England they were. Um, and Green Bay is just, even though they're 3-1, Green Bay doesn't look too good for me right now.
Yeah. Uh, I mean, I kind of have been skeptical of the Packers all year. Everybody predicted, or everybody projected them to be like a top 5 team. Even after they just lost, arguably like the best wide receiver in the NFL. Hasn't been showing that he's the best, but that's besides the point. Um, Aaron Jones and AJ Dillon kind of put this team on their back on Sunday. Aaron Rodgers, he had the really costly pick six with like literally 4 seconds left in the second half. They were getting a little greedy. Uh, Fortunately though for the Packers, it didn't end up coming back to haunt them as they did win this game. But a lot closer of a game than you would really want, especially considering that you've got your projected top 5 defense going against Bailey Zapp. You know, he was drafted in the 6th round by the Patriots, and it
Haley,
was Bailey Zapp.
fifth
It
or
was,
sixth.
yeah, he was drafted in the 6th round. First game, going against whatever this defense really is, and it just overall just the Packers did not look that good. You're not going to beat many teams playing like that. Fortunately, they weren't playing a really good team, and they were playing against the Patriots, and they did scrape out a win. Big takeaway. Um, I mean, it's hard moving forward to be optimistic about the Packers. You have to think that maybe the Packers, wind up winning that division. If they do win against Minnesota later on throughout the year, they already lost to them earlier this year. and just I don't know. I think that against like divisional teams, I think against the Lions, they'll struggle. I think the only team that the Packers really won't struggle to in their division is the Bears, and that's kind of the big thing moving forward. Is is the Packers offense good enough to generate enough points because their defense has not looked good?
Yeah, their defense just does not look good. Green Bay's defense, in my opinion, was supposed to be a really good defense coming into
Hmm.
this, and they've been a little disappointing. I mean, 24 points to New England is not something you want to see from your so-called best defense in the league.
Especially because Bailey Zapp only threw the ball 15 times.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
you know, I mean, the Patriots are going to always come into a game and try and beat you through old school
Run,
football.
run
You know,
game, push it up,
Belichick's, I
punch it
mean,
up the middle.
Belichick's, that's how he runs his stuff. So whenever you're playing the Patriots, you're generally going to get a low scoring game because Belichick's offense has never generated enough offense, and his defense always hold other teams to minimal points. And when you're giving up 24 on 10 completed passes from Bailey Zapp and only 33 total rushes, like it's just not a good look.
Yeah.
Um, but I mean, you beat the Patriots. Congrats, you're 3-1. A little bit of an unearned 3-1 in my opinion, but you know, every record is the way it is because they did end up winning. And so, with that being said, moving on to our final game of the late window
The late window. Yeah.
was the Raiders picking up their first win of the year against the Denver Broncos.
Broncos country. Let's cry.
Yeah, that's the story today because the Denver Broncos now 2-2 have not generated any offense, and I emphasize any because the Denver Broncos, man, man, oh man,
There's just been
they just
lackluster.
paid a they just paid a quarterback $250 million to go out there and set their punter up to punt the ball 11 times on Sunday Night Football.
Yeah, 2 weeks. Yeah, 2 weeks ago, 11 times. Now,
I didn't watch this game because like I don't really care about the Broncos. I don't nobody
yeah,
cares about the Broncos. Um, how many punts can I see that? Can I
they have
see?
five
He had
punts.
five punts.
They have five
Five
punts.
punts.
Listen, here's my thing about the game is Russell Wilson kind of showed himself again this game. I mean, he had 237 yards in the air, 2 touchdowns, and a rushing touchdown. He provided every single touchdown for his team. Um, and I think that it shows volume for Russ trying to pick everything back up. Um, Jerry Jeudy and Cortland Sutton had a great game, two good games. Both had a touchdown each, about the same amount of receiving yards. And then Devontae, for the Raiders, their story was kind of just Josh Jacobs
Mm-hmm.
being and um. But yeah, as you're saying, yeah, Denver. This is the first game Denver's had all year where they've actually been able to get an offense generated and get able to. This is their first time scoring over 20 this year. Yeah, because they
Yep.
scored 16, 16, and
11.
11. So this is their first time ever scoring over 20, and that's something that I mean, any other team who does that, it's going to be 0-4, 1-3. Take Las Vegas for example. I mean, they've scored 19, 23, 22, and they lost. And Denver scored 16, 16, and 11, and they won one of those games, or won two of those games.
Mm-hmm.
So if I'm Denver, I'm not very happy this entire season. In all, I don't think they've scored 10 points in a quarter yet this year, as their defense gave up two quarters in this game where Las Vegas scored 10 plus points. For the Raiders, however, finally got your first win. You can stop worrying about it. Um, They have been very disappointing this year. I really, really want to see the Raiders be successful. I mean, I will be a little biased because my dad is a Raiders fan, so I like seeing the Raiders do good because of my dad. Like loves seeing the Raiders do good, and that's just something that's just like finally my dad doesn't have to worry about the Raiders being a poverty team for how long because they've always been throughout my entire life. I've always known my dad as the guy who's the fan of the trash team. Um,
Hmm.
so I love seeing the Raiders do better and do good. However, I don't see their winning streak going to two because they are playing Kansas City next week. Um, but my biggest thing for this is Broncos. If y'all want to be successful, you got to step it up. You got to do better. And for Vegas, y'all just got to keep. They just got to put it together. Derek Carr had not really the greatest game. They just need to find the good Derek Carr game and then put that together with the good Josh Jacobs game because it
Yep.
seems like they can't have a good game together. It's always one or the other.
Yeah. Uh, big takeaway. Um, what is your big takeaway from this one?
My big takeaway is the Raiders finally got their win. Josh Jacobs looked great on the ground, but as I said, they need to have Derek Carr and Josh Jacobs be able to have a good game.
Yeah. My big takeaway. Um, it's good to see the Raiders get their first win. Broncos offense. I mean, it feels like every single week that's a takeaway for the Broncos is God, our offense sucks. And that's kind of the same case this week. The Broncos offense is not as good as what they were expected to be. A lot of people had this team winning the division because the departure of Tyreek Hill from the Chiefs. Everybody thought that the Chiefs were going to be maybe not as good this year.
Yeah,
Turns out that that is not the case.
not
And
the case at all.
speaking of the Chiefs, our next game that we're going to go over was the Chiefs win over the Tampa Bay Buccaneers on Sunday Night Football, playing in Tampa.
In Tampa. Finally got
In
their
Tampa,
revenge in Tampa.
finally
Um,
got it.
my big thing for this game was it might have been a 10-point game, but Tampa Bay was out of the game before the game started.
Yeah, no,
Uh,
this game was over.
it was 21-3 at the beginning of the second quarter, like towards the beginning of the second quarter. They went into halftime down 11, and then they just scored four. Kansas City just scored 14. They were up 21 towards the end of the third, sorry. And this game was just Kansas City's all outright. Like Mike Evans had a great game, I will say. 103 yards and two touchdowns. I hate saying that, but he did. Tom Brady looked like a normal Tom Brady. He's had kind of a lackluster season. But the biggest thing is Kansas City. Kansas City is just they are insanely good. It's crazy. I mean, Clyde Edwards-Helaire is looking like a good running back one now. I mean, people have kind of said he's a low end. He's like one of the worst starting running backs. He is looking good now. He on the season has he has an average of 52 yards a game, which is good for him. It's around the same for him, which isn't the greatest, but like he's getting involved. He's
Hmm.
getting like last year in 10 games he had 19 catches. This year he has 13 already.
Yep. And that's actually that's 12 through the first three. He only had one last night.
Yeah,
Wasn't a big receiving night for him last night, but last night was a big rushing night for him.
big rushing night. Yeah.
He had nearly 100 on the ground on 19 rushes. Had a rushing touchdown. Um, Patrick Holmes looked amazing in this one. Of course, subtract that intersection off of there,
I was at the very
um,
end, so
which
like
was at the very end. It was kind of when the Chiefs were, I pretty much already put this game away. Tom Brady threw the ball 52 times
yeah.
on Sunday night, and Chris Godwin wasn't. I mean, the takeaway for this one, Chris Godwin really wasn't targeted on any deep routes. You kind of see that's kind of where he strives. Mike Evans more so, but you'd like to see Chris Godwin more involved. He did have 7 catches for about 60 yards, but you just want to see more out of a guy like that because Chris Godwin is expected to be the wide receiver one on this team, or it's kind of like
Him
it's
and
kind
Mike
of like
Evans
expected to
were
be like split.
1.5.
Yeah, kind of like your one and a half sort of deal.
One A.
Um, What's up?
1A, 1B.
Yeah, 1A, 1B, you know. But Tom Brady, he looked good in this one. Just defense couldn't really hold the Chiefs.
Ooh.
Um, and that's kind of the big takeaway was this
My,
Buccaneers defense giving up 41 to the Tyreek Hill-less Chiefs.
here's my big thing is Bucks had 6 rushing attempts all game.
Yep.
Leonard Fournette, 3 rushes for -3 yards. Now he did get involved a ton in the passing game, was 7 catches, 57 yards, and 2 touchdowns. And sorry, 1 touchdown. But the biggest thing is speaking about a monster catching game. Travis Kelsey, 9 catches, 92 yards, and a touchdown.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, just the Chiefs just dominated the whole game. The Chiefs, and they're gonna advance to 4-1 when they beat Las Vegas next week. And that's really all I got to say about the game.
Yeah. Um, that's
You,
all I gotta say about it too. You know,
let's move on.
you love to see your running back get involved passing wise, but you don't want to see that happen after they average -1 yard on 3 attempts. Like
Yeah,
it's just not something you want to see. Um, I mean, moving forward though, the Bucks, I still think that they're a team, that will compete for, first place in the NFC South. I think that they'll be competing with the Saints, who they already beat earlier this year. I think that that division ultimately will come down to that next head-to-head matchup against the Saints, though.
yeah.
Um, and on to our final game of the week,
Your favorite game to talk about?
my favorite one to talk about, the Niners. And what was awesome, needless to say, Niners ended up routing the Rams in SoFi, 24-9. Didn't give up a single touchdown to the projected number one overall offense. Um, Starting off with the Rams, Cooper Cup is going to, for some godforsaken reason, always score a cajillion points in
Oh yeah,
fantasy. Cooper
I mean,
Cup
yeah,
set his Cooper Cup set a career high with 14 receptions,
19
for
targets.
122 yards.
19 targets, dude. That's
On
incredible.
19 targets. Yeah, it kind of like makes you think, like, well, are the Rams, legit? The Rams are now 2-2. Um, and it kind of seems like the Rams' whole offensive scheme runs through the Matthew Stafford to Cooper Cup connection, and it
Yeah.
seems like when that connection doesn't really work out the way they want it to, you expect Cooper Cup to on 14 receptions to have something like 250 receiving yards, not 122.
Yeah. Yeah.
You never want to see your guy have less receiving yards. So does this make sense when I say this? You usually want to have your guy average more than 10 yards a catch.
I
That's
get it.
just kind
No,
of
I get that. I get
that's
what you're
just
saying.
kind of like a general understanding in my opinion. And Cooper Cup averaged 8.5 this game. 122 yards. Uh, it just
Yeah.
it just looks like it's kind of like the whole Michael Thomas on the Saints deal. Cooper Cup kind of just finds
Okay.
open.
Yeah.
Cooper, instead of running slants, Cooper Cup kind of just like runs a route and then like plants himself on like a
Michael
comebacker.
Thomas had a
And that,
higher average though. His was
yeah,
like higher than that.
yeah. But like Cooper Cup kind of just like runs routes, plants himself in a spot on a comebacker, and then Matthew Stafford will hit him for like a whatever, like a 7 yard gain or whatever.
Yeah.
And I mean, it, the better team won this game because the better team was the 49ers because Debo Samuel is that guy. Debo
Hey, I
Samuel Debo Samuel owns the Rams. Debo Samuel owns Jalen Ramsey. Debo Samuel owns Aaron Donald.
yep.
Debo Samuel owns Sean McVay. Kyle Shanahan owns Sean McVay. You know who else owns the Rams? Motherfucking Jeff Wilson.
Hell yeah.
Jeff Wilson, 18 runs for 74 yards, had the big touchdown that he broke out for 32 yards. And Jimmy G, did you really think that Jimmy G was going to lose to the Rams in the regular season?
He doesn't.
He does not lose to the Rams in the regular season. He loses to them in the playoffs, but not in the regular season. Uh-uh.
Yeah,
Jimmy G, 16 of 27 for 240 with the touchdown pass. Obviously, that one touchdown pass came off of a Deebo Samuel big
57
touchdown
yards.
run. It was one of those like check. It was one of those Cooper Cup type plays, where Cooper
Yeah.
Cup runs a little out route, and then Deebo Samuel just he made plays.
Yeah.
And Jalen Ramsey wasn't tackling Deebo. Jalen Ramsey, most overrated safety in the league. You know who isn't the most overrated safety in the league? In fact,
He's a
you know who
corner.
is the best safety
He's
in
a
the league
corner.
per
Jalen Ramsey's
PFF?
a corner. Jalen Ramsey's a corner.
Did I say safety?
Yes.
Oh my God. I said safety. I meant Jalen Ramsey is a terrible corner. You know who's a good corner? Charvarius Mooney Ward. You know who's the best safety in the league?
I won't say Jaquiski Tart because he cost you your season last year.
Talanoa Hufunga, baby. Talanoa Hufanga sealed this game with a 52-yard pick six about the middle of the fourth quarter. Made it a two-score game instead of a one-score game,
Yeah,
and the Rams just couldn't get anything going off of after that. Um, Hufanga per PFF rated as the best safety in the league up to date. Drake Jackson has looked like a stud. Didn't really look like anything in this one. He had like a pass deflection and then like a tackle, and that was it. Um, but big takeaway for me for this one, much needed win for the Niners. Coming from a Niners fan, it's always good to see the Rams lose. Um, and the rest of the division also won. So now you've got a four-way tie. Niners are in first because they do have the two head-to-heads against the Seahawks and Rams. But um, moving forward, it's always a bloodbath in the NFC West. Everybody knows that.
oh
It'll
yeah.
it'll you can never like even 2 weeks before the season ends, you can never predict who will win the NFC West. Well, obviously you can, like, you get four guys and then you all pick a different team and then, one person wins, but you get the point.
I get.
Um, and I guess what are your big takeaways with this one?
My big takeaway is Debo Samuel had his first like explosive game like last year. He always had these explosive games, and he kind of had his first one this year. I mean, um, on the season he has 246 receiving yards, and yesterday he had 115 of those 246. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
and on six catches too. Like, and another thing you were saying with like Cooper Cup, the whole 8.7 yards per catch, a little alarming. Usually you want over 10. Like for instance, Michael Thomas in his 2019 historic year had 11.6. Um, let me go check last year.
Well, so here's
Year
the thing though,
uh,
right, Bryce?
last year
So
Cooper Cup. Well, let me get this. Last year Cooper
on
Cup had 13.4 yards per catch on his breakout year. So it's just kind of a big like. Obviously, it's one game, and I mean he still had 122 yards, but like you do want to see over 10 yards a catch.
He just gets over targeted, in my opinion. Like if you get any player in the league 19 targets in a game, like they're gonna produce 100 plus yards. It's
Oh,
just everybody kind of praises Cooper Cup. They're like, oh, Cooper Cup had 14 receptions. It's like, well, yeah, the dude got literally more than 50% of the target share, or just around that mark. Like it just,
yeah.
it's a little absurd to me. Um, but other than that, um, Rams. I mean, screw the Rams. Um, Nobody really cares if Cooper Cup goes for 14 and 122. I mean, there's not really that many Rams fans, anyways. All the Rams fans are most likely just people who drafted Cooper Cup in fantasy, and so now they're kind of rooting for the Rams because they want Cooper Cup to carry them. But that concludes all of our games this week, and then
Um,
um, if you wanted to
I'll,
do the prediction, or if you want to do that
I'll
in a separate video,
we can do it real quick. It doesn't. We don't have to go in depth. We're just picking teams.
yeah.
So what we're gonna do is we're gonna pick our week 5 pick'ems. Cameron, I will list out the teams, and you will give me your decision, and then I will give you my decision right after.
Yep.
All right. So first game that we've got is the Indianapolis Colts versus the Denver Broncos.
On a prime Thursday night football.
Yes. Who you got?
Indianapolis is more than likely going to be without JT. I've got the Broncos winning this one, and what I expect to be a very low scoring game.
Yeah. I've got Denver as well, and I've got Denver by 10.
Sounds good.
Um,
First game. Oh, we've got another England game this week, actually.
we do.
This one starts at 7:30 a.m. Mountain Time, or 9:30 a.m. Eastern Time, for those of you on the East Coast that are somehow listening to this. Um, the Giants versus the Packers. Both teams 3-1. The Packers are given 8 in this one on uh they're given or sorry, yeah, they're given 8. I think the Giants are actually going to win this one, and
Wow.
what'll be a rushing shootout between Aaron Jones, AJ Dillon, and Saquon Barkley. I don't know if Daniel Jones will be playing, but I've got the Giants winning this one by we'll give them, about 6. I think the Giants will win this one by about 6
Wow.
points, and what'll be a
Um,
moderately
wow.
scoring game.
I was not like that. I got the Packers winning this game, and I've got them winning by 2. I've got them
Okay.
winning like 24-22, one of those type of scores. Next game we got battle of 1 and 3 teams. We got Detroit Lions playing the New England Patriots. I picked the Lions to win this game simply just because they have the highest scoring offense in the league.
Yeah, and
I got them by
same.
probably 7,
Yeah, and
or
same here.
maybe I win by 10.
England's actually the Patriots are actually the favorites to win this one. I think that is possibly the worst bet to make on this game because I think that the Lions are going to run away with this one. I got the Lions winning by about 14.
Okay. Next game we got the Chargers and the Browns. Both teams 2-2. I said I got the Chargers easily. Chargers winning by 17.
Um, is this one where is this game being played?
I think Cleveland.
It is.
Yeah.
So, ooh, that's tough. That's a really tough one actually. I was kind of split on this one. Justin Herbert versus Jacoby Brissett. I think that it ultimately comes down to that. I think it's going to come down to Justin Herbert versus Jacoby Brissett, who plays better. Um, I do think that Justin Herbert will play better than Jacoby Brissett, and for that reason, I have the Chargers winning by 4.
All right. Um, we got next game: Houston Texans 0-3-1 versus the Jacksonville Jaguars 2-2. I think the Jaguars will take care of their business, win by 11.
Yeah, Jaguars will take care of business against the division rival. I think that the Jaguars, because we've got bye weeks next week, right?
I don't know.
Yeah, yes, we do because the Titans aren't playing next week,
Yeah.
and I believe that the Colts are going to lose and so the Jaguars are going to take the lead of the AFC South after they rout the Texans by about 20.
Wow.
Yep,
Uh, Next matchup, we got the battle of the 2-2 teams in the NFC South: Atlanta versus Tampa.
the
Who you got?
Falcons respectively should not be 2-2. Um, do I even need to go in depth? Bucks by about 10.
Okay, I've actually got the Buccaneers by 4. Next game, we're gonna go 1-3 Pittsburgh Steelers versus the 3-1 Bills. I'll tell you right now, the Bills are gonna take care of the Steelers quite easily. The game's gonna be done in the first half. I could see the Bills winning this game by 21. How about you? All right, might have some difficulties for Cameron. Um, while we're waiting for him, I'll hit it with Dolphins and Jets. Dolphins 3-1, Jets 2-2. I'm gonna say the Dolphins are gonna pull that out. Are you there, Cameron?
Yep, sorry, headset died on me.
You're okay. I was just saying, Steelers Bills. I got the Bills winning.
Steelers, Bills. Um, yeah, I mean Steelers are trash. Give me the Bills by about 13. Bills by 13.
13. Okay. Next game, Dolphins and Jets. I said Dolphins are going to win that game by 4.
Um, it'll be a close game in my opinion. I think that this one might be a little bit more high scoring than the other ones. But I'll also take the Dolphins by about 6.
Yeah. Bears at Vikings. I got the Vikings by 15.
15, huh? Okay. Um, this one's is it Bears at Vikings? They're playing in
Yeah.
Minnesota. Not that it really
Yeah.
matters. Justin Jefferson is gonna go off this game and make fantasy managers feel like they're actually. My opponent has Justin Jefferson. Scratch that. Justin Jefferson is gonna play like ass. Vikings are still gonna win though because Alexander Madison is gonna go ballistic. Give me the Vikings by say like yeah, we'll say 15 as well. The Bears are terrible.
Okay. We got the Tennessee Titans at the Washington Commanders. At the Titans by 10.
The Titans are playing? Oh, they are.
Yeah.
There isn't bye weeks this week. I lied. Okay.
Next week there is.
Um, yeah, so Titans, so forgive me for earlier. The Jaguars and the Titans are going to share the top of the throne of the AFC South after the Titans win this one by about, 10. We'll give them 10. Derrick Henry's going to run all over the Commanders.
Oh yeah. Next game we got the 2-2 Seahawks versus the 1-3 Saints.
I think the Saints win this one. Uh, Not saying that because you're in here, just saying that because I think that with some of the better guys back, I think that Michael Thomas will be back. Same with Kamara. If Jameis Winston is out, I think that they're still gonna win this one. Um, the Saints, sure, or not the Saints, sorry, the Seahawks, sure, have looked really good. They are 2-2. They do have the better record. However, I just feel like the Saints have the better team. I'll take the Saints by about 4.
I'm gonna take the Saints as well. I'm gonna take them by 3. Next
That's
game we got 2-2 49ers versus the 1-3 Panthers. I'm gonna take the 49ers by 11.
yeah. I think this one comes down to who wins the running game. Is it going to be Jeff Wilson and who I want it to be Tyrus Davis or it's God his name is so hard. Um, Tyrus Davis Price or CMC. And because I think that Jimmy G and Baker Mayfield, I think Jimmy G is a little bit better than Baker, but I've got the Niners. Mm, Give them 9.
All right. Eagles and Cardinals. I got the Eagles winning this game, but it's gonna be a close one. I think it's gonna be a 4-point win for the Eagles, 32 to 28.
I think this is Kyler's coming out game. Uh, I think the Cardinals are going to win this one by about 10. I think that Kyler is just going to be too much for the Eagles defense to handle, running all over the field like a toddler. So I've got a very high scoring game with this one, but I do have the Cardinals winning by about 10.
Okay. Next game is the Cowboys and the Rams. I've got the Cowboys winning this one, and I think the Rams are going to play how they did this week against the Cowboys. Cowboys are going to advance to 4-1. They're going to win by about 6.
Okay. I think the Rams will win this one. Oh, excuse me. I think the Rams are going to win this one. I think that Matthew Stafford is probably, arguably, not arguably, I think he is a better quarterback than Cooper Rush. I think that the Cowboys haven't really played a good opponent this year, other than the Bengals, who really wasn't, Bengals at full strength. Um, and well, the Cowboys played the Bucks, right, earlier
Uh,
this year,
yeah, week 1.
and they lost,
Yes.
and they beat. Who are the 3 teams they beat? The Bengals, the Commanders, and
Giants.
Giants. Yeah. Um, I got the Rams by about 6. I think Darrell Henderson will have a good game. Cooper Kupp will have another good game. It'll be your typical Rams win.
Okay. Sunday night football game. We've got the 2-2 Bengals versus the 2-2 Ravens.
This game will be the game of the week. I think Joe Burrow will and the Cincinnati Bengals will get back up to speed. I think Jamar Chase will have a big game, as well as Lamar Jackson. And I think you're going to have a shootout. And ultimately, I think it comes down to the final possession. But I do think that the Ravens come out of this one with a win, and Lamar takes back that whole MVP favorite.
Okay. Well, I'm
I,
actually got the opposite. I think the Bengals win the game. I think Joe Burrow will have a game-winning drive.
okay.
And then the Monday night football game, the
Do
one
the
and three
Chiefs
Rays,
do the
3-0.
Chiefs only play in prime time?
I guess.
Like this is their third prime time game.
Third primetime game of the season.
Is it their third or their fourth?
Third. First week was not. Third week was not. Fourth week was. Second week was.
Yeesh. The Chiefs only play in prime time. I do think the Chiefs are gonna win this one though. That Travis Kelce and Mahomes connection is just too strong. The Chiefs have always owned the Raiders with Patrick Mahomes at their starting quarterback, and I think it'll be the same case here. Um, I I'm hoping for a close game. However, do I think it will be one? More than likely not. I've got the Chiefs by about 13.
Yeah, I've got the Chiefs by about 13 as well. And that wraps up everything up for today. Cameron, thank you for coming on. And
Yeah, it's always a
it
pleasure.
was a little bit of a long one again, but I mean, whenever we come and sit down, we just never we could talk for hours. Um,
Yeah. No.
this thing could have been like 4 hours if we could have, but we
Yeah.
kept it still pretty decent. I had a great talk. I think we talked about a lot of stuff. Hopefully everybody watching still that we cover everything for y'all as well. And if you got any other opinions, make sure to let me know. You can message me on Instagram at Tello Talk Sports. Comment on my YouTube channel at or on Tello Talk Podcast.
Hmm.
And just thanks for all the support. I think I'm gonna just end it right here.
Gonna wrap it up,
Wrap
and
it up. Cameron, you'll definitely be on the show again.
hopefully next week.
Probably next week. I don't know if next week we're gonna talk. I might talk some college football as well. Uh,
Yeah.
but but yeah, that's gonna be it for me. That's gonna be it for both of us. And hope y'all enjoyed. And peace out.
Peace.